Oh my god, this is actually the first time we've seen something like this happen. And trust me, you are absolutely not ready for what's about to hit us in 6.1 and literally this video as a whole. So yes, as the thumbnail says, this is the banner lineup video for version 6.1 all the way to 6.5. And just a few hours ago, the 6.1 lineup was leaked by none other than the legendary HoMDG Cat, one of the most consistently reliable sources of leaks out there. So today we'll use those leaks as the foundation to piece together not only 6.1, but also the potential rerun order leading all the way to 6.5. But first, let's get the usual disclaimer out of the way. You see, even though our banner lineup videos have been hitting around 90% accuracy, I'd still advise you to take the 6.5 banners with a grain of salt. That patch is just a bit too far out to be set in stone. Also, we don't play favorites here. If the analysis doesn't line up for a character rerun, then you simply won't see them here. Because we don't predict at random, we use patterns, rerun cycles, and actual data. With that said, we've got bad news on Barca, so yeah, you might want to hang on tight. But you know what else is you should hang on tight to? The awesome discount at LDshop. Now with Lauma, Nahida, and the Chronicle banner literally on their way, it's quite obvious that pulling for them all will cost a fortune. Well, today I'm glad to tell you that you can slash a literal 35% off all those expenses. Also, you'll be getting those double crystals too. And yes, even with such high savings, there is literally no catch. To top up, all you'll ever need is your UID and server. It really is stress-free, so more info on them later in this video. Okay, with that covered, let's do the usual and dive straight into everything banner-related coming in 6.1. As always, we've got 4 characters, but this time, HoYo actually pulled a crazy move, and honestly, it was only a matter of time. But before we jump into banners though, let's quickly talk about the new character. Why? It's simply because of this one thing, her weapon. Now, even if you don't care about Nefer herself, trust me, her weapon is something you'll definitely want to keep an eye on. And yes, I know you're still thinking about the banner lineup, but don't worry, with the 6.1 banner lineup pretty much confirmed, we now basically have an Ultra 4K preview of what to expect in 6.2. Alright, so in 6.1 we're getting the brand new character, Nefer. Cutting straight to the point, she's a Dendro Catalyst DPS who's heavily reliant on Lauma, but not on Bloom teams. In fact, she kills that entire archetype, which means that, yeah, you can forget about pairing her with Nilou. Now, all that isn't the interesting stuff. The interesting part about her is her weapon, because it's absolutely like no other. Now, unlike typical 5-star weapons, where you get something like 20% crit rate as a substat, for example, Mavuika's weapon, Nefer's weapon is on a whole other level. It grants an outstanding 88.2% crit damage, which is literally so much that you can literally skip crit damage rolls on her artifacts entirely. Aside from that, the weapon's substats are stacked. For the entailed substats, it further boosts the equipping character's crit rate by 8% when they unleash an elemental skill. But that's not all, because they also gain 80 elemental mastery. But as if that wasn't freaking enough, they added this. When the equipping character deals Lunar Bloom damage to the opponent, their crit damage shoots up by another 24% for 4 seconds. Put all of this together, and this weapon can give you up to 112% crit damage at peak, which is absolutely insane. Mavuika's weapon can't touch this. It's literally too hot for the Hydro Archon herself, who is literally hot both physically and spiritually. And that's exactly why I had to stop and talk about it. So with that covered, let's go over the full 6.1 banner lineup. In version 6.1, also known as Luna 2, we're looking at Nefer, Arlecchino, Zhongli, and a surprise addition that no one saw coming. Furina. So what phases can we expect them in? Well, this one is both simple and complex. Normally, the rule is pretty straightforward. New characters go in phase 1, while Archons are almost always saved for phase 2. That's been the trend with rerunning Archons for years. But here's the twist, this time we've got 2 Archons. Which means, for once, we might actually see an Archon in phase 1 as well. But this is where I bring my second pattern, which completely simplifies everything. The pattern is that Genshin loves to run characters that complement each other's kits, and I used this exact logic when I predicted the 6.0 phases. Technically, I got the pairs right, just flipped the phases, but that's because there were 2 new characters back then. So we didn't really know which new character would appear first. But now, with only 1 new character, we can confidently drop her into phase 1, and then just find the character that supports her the most. And that's exactly where Furina comes in. Nefer's whole kit gets juiced up by dealing Lunar Bloom damage, which instantly screams for a strong Hydro applicator to be by her side. And let's be real, nobody does that better than Furina. It's honestly that simple. They wouldn't dare put Arlecchino next to Nefer. Those two have zero synergy. And as much as I love Zhongli, he's not bringing anything valuable to her team either. So Furina is definitely sliding into phase 1 with Nefer. That's basically 100% confirmed. So yes, in phase 1, we can expect Nefer and Furina, while Zhongli and Arlecchino will tag along in Phase 2. Hopefully that clears things up for your Primogem planning. And one last tip, if you're pulling Nefer, I strongly recommend going for her weapon too. There's simply no free-to-play option that even comes close to those stats. Okay, with that said, let's go over 6.2. This is the easier phase because it's closer to us and we can use the normal banner pattern to predict this one. Now, I know some of you might be wondering if HoYo would dare run another Archon here, and my answer is heck no. After thinking it through, it's clear they only stacked Archons in 6.1 because of the awkward timing of Columbina's appearance in 6.3. If they only ran one Archon in 6.1, they'd end up struggling to rerun popular Archons like Mavuika twice in the Nod Cry cycle. And since Columbina is set to rerun again in 6.7, the space on the timeline gets really tight. So yeah, HoYo can pull off 2 Archons in a patch, but there's no way they can afford to repeat that too often. With that said, in version 6.2, we can finally expect Venti to make his long-awaited return. He's literally the longest character sitting on the bench right now, so it's about time. But he's not alone, because we also have Veresa, Genshin's 3rd strongest DPS, coming back. She last ran in 5.5, and HoYo has this habit of rerunning characters about 4 to 6 patches after their first debut. It has to be after the first, because after the second run, the pattern really doesn't count anymore. So with Veresa already waiting for 6 patches, she is definitely bound to make her rerun in 6.2. They simply can't hold her back, especially now when people have realized the hidden potential that she has. Personally, I'm not a fan of her, but you really gotta respect her power level. Now with that covered, we have Duran making his appearance in this patch, so it's really expected that he would show up in the first phase due to him being a new character. But before I can predict the next banner, I have to say this, as it'd help you understand what I'm about to use to predict the last character. You see, according to leaks, Duran is meant to be a melt or vaporized DPS or support, so it's quite obvious that Genshin will pair him with the vaporized counterpart. But since we can expect Columbina, a Hydro DPS character in 6.3, then it's safe to say that they are following the support before the DPS rule. Therefore, he won't be paired with a Hydro DPS, nope, he will be paired with a Cryo or Hydro support, and the perfect person for that spot is none other than Escoffi. It's really that simple. I mean, she's literally the best buffer for any Hydro or Cryo DPS. Plus, it'll be exactly 5 patches since her last run, so bringing her back here makes perfect sense. It also follows the support before DPS rule. With Columbina as the upcoming Hydro Archon DPS, Genshin would naturally want to stack her buffers first before Her Majesty finally debuts. So yes, in version 6.2, we can expect Duran and Escoffi in the first phase, with Veresa and Venti in the second. Honestly, this is the simplest prediction so far, and I'm confident we'll be at least 75% right on this one. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd love if you'd like the video or maybe subscribe. Commenting helps too. I just would love if this video would outperform my other videos, as I actually put a decent chunk of my time into it. It's free, and you have my thanks for it. With that covered, let's go stab version 6.3 in the back. Now, as expected, this is where Her Majesty finally makes her debut, Columbina. She's set to be a Hydro DPS, though leaks about her weapon are still a mystery, so I'll leave that to you guys to guess in the comments. Now, since she's the Archon of Nod Cry, she's technically still a new character despite being an Archon, which means we can safely expect her to show up in the first phase. But that's not all. There are also leaks pointing to another new character. Some say it's Linnea, and honestly, I can see why. I mean, she was literally mentioned by a nefer, and for a nefer, who is a Nod Cry character, to mention her, then yeah, chances are high she's the missing character here. The only uncertainty is whether she's a 4-star or a 5-star. But for now, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and assume she's a 5-star. With that said, if she truly is real, then we can expect her to run alongside Columbina in the first phase, as I feel that she will be a direct support to her. Also, in previous regions like Natlan, they ran both the new Archon and the new character in the same phase, simply because she was her best support. Now let's be honest, Linnea not being 100% guaranteed here, we have to place an emergency replacement, and that's where we can expect Neuvillette. Now listen to this, Furina and Nuvi are like bread and butter, because Nuvi always runs 2 patches after or before Furina. Now that Furina is in 6.1, then it's simply guaranteed to expect Nuvi in 6.3. Also, with Neuvillette damage being increased whenever you're vaporizing, we can expect them to try and use that opportunity to use Duran to place him into the meta one last time before we say our final goodbye to Nuvi. So for the 2 remaining characters, things get a bit tricky, but nothing too hard for me to crack, because in times like this, HoYo always falls back to the revenue chart and sees which popular character there is to run. And of course, we do have access to that information, so it really just takes about 20 minutes of looking for us to realize that Zilonen is the one made for this spot, because not only is she still popular and made decent revenue, but she also is a universal buffer with both her weapon and even her C1 having a significant boost than C0. So yes, they will always keep on pressuring your pulls each patch. As I've always said, Genshin, really doesn't want you and I to rest. They don't want you to have that patch to relax and save primos. Nope. They want to make sure you spend, and Zilonen simply is the best candidate for that. With that said, it leaves us with one spot, and this is where we take our last principle. The principle is that Genshin always prioritizes the run of characters from the direct previous patch. When we were in Natlan, we were getting nice Fountain reruns. When we were in Fountain, we got Sumeru. So, as expected, when we are in Nodkrai, we can expect Natlanese to make their run. So yes, we just gotta look back and find who else was popular in Natlan. Except Mavwika, of course. And that's where we land on Kinij. Why Kinij? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, we can't add Mulani as it'd be kinda too early since she ran in 5.8, which would just be 3 patches away. We can't also take Chaska as it's the same case for her. Other Natlan characters that could be here has also had their run, therefore, Kinij simply is the last man standing, quite literally. So I can fully expect Kinij to make his rerun here. So in version 6.3, we can expect Columbina, Linnea, Kinij, and Zilonen. Now, I know what you may be asking, and that is their patches, but honestly, I can't really say for certain, because Linnea right there really just acts as a huge rock in my plans and analysis. Not knowing her kid expectancies really makes it hard for me to set a phase for her, so yes, kindly bear with me on that. Now for 6.4, this is where I have bad news. Remember this handsome young man y'all were salivating for? Yeah, turns out that he will end up exactly like Mizuki. What do I mean? Well, I mean that he's a standard character who will run in 6.4, but will be added to the standard banner in 6.5, meaning in the free 5-star selector in Genshin next anniversary, you'd be able to get him. Also, you really can just lose 50-50 to him, so it really makes him lose the vibe of strength that was attached to him. Honestly painful to see him end up like this. So yes, that's that for Varka. For the next character, we can expect a new character because of the Lantern Rite in that patch. But since there's no info about her, I won't say much about her since I don't want to spread unconfirmed information. But before rounding it up, I just want to let you know that LDshop is selling a $100 Genesis for as low as $68, and even a Welkin for as low as $3.50. But that's not all, because if you spend over $80 in a month, you'll get an extra Welkin or its equivalent in any 3 other games. It's free savings, and you only need your UID and server. So yeah, claim the newcomer 15% and my exclusive 5% coupon by using my link below. With that said, we can also expect somebody very important to show up in 6.4, and that is none other than Skirk. With it being exactly 6 patches since her first run, it's safe to expect her in 6.4. She simply has no other thing stopping her. So yes, Skirk is coming in version 6.4 or Luna 5. Now for the last character, we can expect an Archon to make her rerun, and obviously that Archon is none other than Mavwika. With her being the last Archon awaiting a rerun, it is simply obvious to expect her in version 6.4. So with that said, let's round up 6.4. In 6.4, after doing all the hard calculations behind your backs, I've concluded that Columbina and Nuvi in the first phase, while we can expect Skirk and Varka in the second phase. The explanation is quite long and juicy, but we don't have all day. Now I wish we could go into further patches, but time really is ticking. You have to touch grass. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in. It means a whole lot to me than you think. As always, I love you all, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.